Welcome to St. Mary's of the Pines, Chattawa, Mississippi, where school sisters from all over NAMA have gathered for the first NAMA Theological Development Workshop. It is my privilege to present to you the members of the core committee who designed and planned this workshop, which will be given by Sister Mary Irving and Sister Mary Maher. Sister Addie Lorraine Walker is a member of the core committee. She has her roots in the Dallas province, as well as the Milwaukee province, where she had her initial formation in SSND. Addie's doctorate is in religion and education. Sister Marie Vianney Bilgreen is also a member of the core committee. Vianney has her roots in the Milwaukee province. Her academic background includes a doctorate in moral theology. Her former missionary experiences in 2 countries in Latin America adds a global perspective to the work of the committee. Sister Mary Heather McKenna has her SSND roots in Canada, the academic institution where she received her doctorate in ministry at the Toronto School of Theology. Enriched by both the multicultural and ecumenical student body, Heather brings these influences to the committee. Sister Elizabeth Willems has her roots in the Mankato province. Liz's doctorate is in moral theology and psychology, and she teaches classics in sexual and social ethics, as well as in the principles of moral theology. Liz's work as an elementary and high school teacher, as well as a campus minister, and her ministry in seminary, brings a familiar and rich background to the work of the committee. One last member of the core committee is the new Wineskins Board liaison, Sister Jane Burke, Provincial Leader of Baltimore. As you view this video and you yourselves participate in this theological development workshop via video, you will come to know the blessing that has been ours and will be ours as we continue to move into the future and this theological development project. Welcome to this workshop where we will explore SSND, Living in Many Worlds. I'm sure you recognize the title. So SSNDs, Living in Many Worlds, and the many worlds of SSND. We are also here at this first theological program of NAMA in order to do 2 things: to probe our experience of religious life in the contemporary world and church, so that together we may move eagerly into a transformative process of theological education and reflection. What a gift is ours as apostolic women religious on the brink of the millennium as we address this theme. And I believe, in fact, I'm sure that on Sunday, we here present will know that our time together will have been much too brief for all that this weekend and this workshop will hold. We will also, and in fact, already have made a commitment to this process of ongoing theological development as called for by the 20th General Chapter. And this will also be true for you, those of our sisters in NAMA who are watching this videotape or listening to the audio tape. I want to take this opportunity to share with you what has been the sacred story and journey which has brought us to this point in NAMA and to this workshop. So let me take you back to October 1995. Where were you in October of 1995? Really, it's less than 4 years ago. The provincial and regional leaders with the General Council met in Honduras for the extended General Council. And an EGC has 4 purposes: the unity and communication in the congregation, a deeper understanding of the congregation, consideration of needs and situations, and that the EGC would come to some kind of recommendation of a response to all that they would hear during those 3 weeks. Sister Mary Maher spoke to the EGC, and she issued a stirring and prophetic call, and I quote just one sentence from that wonderful talk that she gave. If indeed our identity as apostolic religious is to bear the ancient tradition to a troubled world, then it seems to me that a systematic theological re-education of our membership is necessary for our movement into the future, especially if we are to recover the sense of corporate identity and common vision in our apostolic endeavors, which has been one of the casualties of this period of profound transition," unquote. Seeds of this call from Mary fell on very fertile ground as the provincial and regional leaders of the North American major area, I'll refer to them as the New Wineskins Board, their current name, immediately said yes to this call. And I can remember exactly where they were in the room as they kind of gathered around one another to say, what can we do about what we've just heard? That was October 95. We're now into May of 96. And the New Wineskins Board has issued a letter of invitation to school sisters with expertise in theology, spirituality, and related fields to come together to meet and to talk about this call. January of 97, of the many sisters invited, 33 attend a meeting in St. Louis where they clarified the challenge of the New Wineskins Board, and they changed the title, which is so typical of SSNDs, from theological re-education to theological development, which means theological updating and education. Those 33 school sisters sent a recommendation to the New Wineskins Board, who then, after meeting and dialoguing, affirmed it. And that recommendation contained 3 points: that there be a systematic and organic process of theological development that has focus and depth for all of NAMA. Systematic, organic, focus, and depth. That the methods for implementation be varied, creative, flexible, to meet the various needs of the NAMA membership. That participation in the process be invitational, but with strong encouragement and rooted in our commitment as SSNDs. So you responded to an invitation, and some of you may have come with strong encouragement to be here. However you came, it's wonderful to have you here. Following that meeting, the New Wineskins Board then appointed a core committee. All of these sisters are NAMA members, just like you and I. They have roots in the provinces of Baltimore, Canada, Dallas, Mankato, Milwaukee, and Wilton. These sisters have ministries in North, South, West, and East of the continental United States and also in Canada. Each one holds a doctorate in her particular field. So the committee members, 2 of whom tonight and this weekend will present this workshop, represent all of us. You also have to know that the committee members all have other full-time jobs, not just the Theological Development Committee. But in less than 2 years from that time, from their first core committee meeting in July of 97 until now, August of 99, they have designed and planned, and they continue to work on the plan and the implementation of a 4-year process of theological development, and also, with the call of the 20th General Chapter, a process of theological reflection. And this is the design book that they sent. They have the concept and the design for a 4-year project of theological development and are beginning to work on a process for theological reflection for us. What a gift and what a privilege is ours from these sisters, our sisters in NAMA, as we ourselves come together and explore theology through the lens of SSND, living in many worlds. And under the able and inspiring leadership of our 2 Marys, Mary Maher and Mary Irving, I know that we are in good hands. And I now invite Sister Mary Maher to continue with our presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Pat. I'm very grateful for Pat's introduction. One thing Pat neglected to share with you is that Pat has recently agreed to serve as the program coordinator for this 4-year plan. I must tell you, one of the clearest moments of unanimity on this committee was the day we all agreed that Sister Pat Flynn was our first choice to be asked to serve in that role. And the closest that our committee has ever come to ecstasy was the day we heard she had said yes. So thank you, Pat. And from all of us in NAMA, welcome to this just newest and most recent act of generosity and leadership on your part. Thank you, Pat. I want to add my welcome to all of you who have journeyed here to Chattawa, did I say that? And to all who are participating through the videotape. There is an excitement here which we hope translates through this medium to you. A few moments ago, Pat asked you to look around the room at the diversity and the many worlds from which we come and the many worlds we serve. I would like to ask you to look around the room one more time. To look around this room, to think perhaps of a recent gathering of SSNDs that you've attended. Many of our provinces have had province days recently. And look around again. And this time, I'd like you to see the lives of prayer and suffering and hard work and goodness and struggle. Time and again, we have the experience that wonderful things, one could even say extraordinary things, happen when SSNDs get together. Out of the ordinariness of our lives, given to God together, the transformation of the world is taking place. This is the simple truth to those who have the imagination and the heart to see it. Through our lives, what we do and who we are, all of our struggles and suffering and joys and gift, all of our differences and all of our struggle for unity, all of that is changing the world. To those who have the imagination and the heart to see it. But where do we get that imagination? And how do we deepen that heart's perception? Hopefully, in a small way, this is where this weekend's workshop comes in. In this workshop, as Pat said, we want to introduce you to a transformative process of theological education and reflection in the coming years. And we want to do this by this weekend taking a good hard look at our present situation. We want to probe our present experience of religious life in the contemporary world and church, but we want to do it with imagination and heart. We want to do it with the imagination of faith, with the heart of faith. And it seems to me there can be no more fitting place, really, when you think about it, to begin this process than in Chattawa, which is a foundation so early in North America. Mother Caroline purchased this place, this building, in fact, in which we meet. And what is more, Mother Caroline worshiped in this very room when many years ago it was a chapel. Her prayers are here, and I believe she is here. Especially in the stirring words she wrote to the congregation in North America, and we are NAMA as we sit here together. Mother Caroline wrote, "Lovingly reflect on your present situation as the will of God. Embrace it willingly." Lovingly reflect on your present situation as the will of God. Embrace it willingly. We can hardly be in Mississippi for an entire weekend without at least once quoting William Faulkner. It was Faulkner, I think, who wrote, "The past is not dead. It is not even past." Mother Caroline's here. And she says to each of us, as she said to our sisters in the 19th century, lovingly reflect on your present situation as the will of God. Embrace it willingly. But oh, our situation is so different from our sisters in the 19th century. Our dress is so much different than our sisters in the 19th century. Our world and our present situation is ambiguous. That's why this emphasis on imagination and the heart of faith, seeing with the heart of faith, because our present situation is ambiguous. It is not clear. All our analysis this weekend is to help us grasp that. In fact, I'd like to say that the sub-theme of the workshop is ambiguity. And that's going to be very clear as we move through the next hours that we spend together. Our situation as religious in the world and church is ambiguous, and that ambiguity is not going to go away anytime soon. The goal of our process of theological development, then, over the next 4 years, is not to learn all the answers to all the questions. It's not to pretend that we can come to clarity and put a period at the end of our answers to the questions. Rather, the goal is to develop the imagination and the heart of faith so that we can live with the ambiguity, so that we can embrace it willingly, so that we can live with deepening integrity in the face of ambiguity, so that we can make good and intelligent decisions in the midst of ambiguity, and so that we can take loving action together in an ambiguous time in the church and in the world. I'd like to spend just a moment introducing you to the content of the weekend now that we know something of the tone we would like to establish. If you look at the papers you have before you, that has the outline of the content of the workshop. There are 3 parts to the weekend's content. Part 1 will be trying to understand the many worlds. So we'll take time tomorrow morning to explore what do we mean by using this phrase, SSND in many worlds? How can we understand that phrase, the many worlds? And then secondly, we'd like to highlight the differences among the many worlds. What makes them plural? What makes them many? And then lastly, on Sunday morning, we want to focus on and highlight the unity among the worlds. So those will be our 3 points: understanding the many worlds, highlighting the differences among them, highlighting the unity among them. And your little homework for tonight is to read this outline. Okay, we begin the day with a quiz in the morning. Okay? I want to introduce now Mary Irving to you, who will lead us in our initial process this evening. And in doing that, I want to say that the content, or basically the idea for this workshop, has been more or less planned by the Theological Development Committee. But it was left to Mary and myself to implement that, and we've been working over the last weeks and months. And in introducing Mary to you, I want to say what a privilege it has been for me to work with her. She embodies some of the things that are her responsibility this weekend, which is to be dialogic and collaborative. And I learn from her every time we work together. And so I want to take time to say that as I introduce her. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. In the prologue to our Constitution, in the description of St. Augustine as one of the great early parts of our heritage, he is described as the person who showed us how the Trinity was the model of what community could be. And so it is in this Augustinian spirit that I am the 3rd person here to welcome you. You who are, as the book of, Holy Wisdom is called in the Old Testament, seekers and learners here in Chattawa, and all of you in Nama who will see this video also being seekers and learners. So once again, welcome. My role has 2 dimensions during this weekend. The first one, as Mary mentioned or hinted at, is that I will facilitate the process, the small groups, the large group discussion, and so on. And the second role is that I will be a dialogue partner with Mary. I too can say that as I have worked closely with Mary in the committee over the last 2 years, and then more closely in some special work we did over the last year, and then even more closely in the work that we have done to prepare for this workshop, she too has been a gift to me, and I'm going to acknowledge that publicly. Thanks, Mary. So it's a joy to be a public dialogue partner with her after so many months and years of being a more internal one in the committee work. And this phrase dialogue partners can mean several different things. First of all, I will be attempting to draw out some of the implications for spirituality, that is to say, from our experience, of some of the concepts that Mary will be presenting to us. Now, Mary herself will also be alluding and making practical connections, and I will try to draw them out, sometimes drawing them out more, or sometimes adding others that seem pertinent. I think it's important to see the relationship between theology and spirituality, and for the moment, I will simply say that one good way to think about spirituality is to say that it is our experience of women of faith, living in our world today, living a relationship with God, with ourselves, with others, and with our world and our planet, we need to say, and our cosmos these days. Some of the practicalities of the spirituality that I will try to point out for us will include, for the self, what impact does this have on my inner experience, my experience of myself as a woman of faith? What impact does this material, these examples, have on me in my interpersonal world of SSND community, of family and friends, of ministry? And what impact does this have on me as a woman of faith in relationship to the broader world in which we live? And of course, part of that broader world in which we live is our own mission and ministry. Third, I'll call attention to some other perspectives as Mary is speaking, particularly the perspective of women, some of the implications of this material for what it means to be a woman or women together ourselves, or what it means to look at the broader world of women, both locally in North America and throughout the world. Finally, I see myself as a dialogue partner with all of you, and in an indirect media way with those of you who will be watching this videotape. I will be making some observations. I will be trying to connect with our real experience. But I'm not going to be doing this in order to finish what Mary says. As Mary said, this is a workshop and a weekend that we hope will open all of us up, not leave us going home saying, well, now I know everything about SSND living in different worlds. And so I hope that what I say will spark your own thinking and reflection, the connections you will make in the short term here this weekend for your discussion in the small and the large groups, and in a broader sense when the weekend is over, as we all hope that you will continue to make this alive in yourself and among the people with whom you live and work. So that's a bit of a summary then of how I will be interacting here during the week. And now I'm going to change hats and become the facilitator of the process. I invite you, first of all, we're going to take a chance because many of you have met each other, but not everyone has, and some have come in as we were beginning. We're just going to do an introduction at the tables. And I will simply ask you to say two things at your table, to say who you are and what drew you to this workshop. Who you are and what drew you to this workshop. We're ready, sisters, now to move to the next part of our process this evening. And for that, you will need the sheet that looks like this, SSND, Living in Many Worlds. You'll notice that the title is Then and Now. And for the first few minutes, we're going to ask you at your tables to take a few minutes of quiet to read and think about the three questions under them. What did you think you were doing when you entered SSND? What was your understanding of God and the world and church? What were you leaving? What were you going to? And now, what are you leaving behind? Now, what are you going to? And now, what is impelling you? And that word impel is really designed to kind of get at the imagination and the heart that Mary spoke so eloquently of in her introduction. So, a few minutes to consider these really profound questions, and then move into the sharing as your group is ready.